let's kick off. As you can probably tell, I'm massively excited for this session all around the power of community. It is literally what the Founder Network stands for. So it's been really good to see actually that more and more founders have been taking community seriously. I think the pandemic's probably accelerated that a little bit. So we've been seeing more and more founders, whether it be start off the base of a new community or really reignite an existing community. And they've seen a ton of benefits from that. So it's been really good to see from an outsider. But as you all know, that will bring plenty of challenges as well, which we keep hearing about, whether it's physically starting it, whether it's maintaining engagement. I think we all feel the challenge of online versus offline community and where the lines blur a little bit and how you manage that. So for us, this is just a topic we had to address, as I say, so important. So importantly for us, we needed to find a partner that really shared that passion of community, but also shared the passion of helping smaller businesses. So I think we've really found that in Reddit, who are here today. We're lucky enough to be joined by Nicola, Maria, and Mary, who you'll see on your screens, who we'll hear from in just a moment. So I'm sure they're going to be more than happy to share a bit more about their learnings, any advice and tips, and can share a bit more about Reddit as well. I think what's important about Reddit and what they'll share is they're actually going through this as well. So while they're a real household name in the US, and I think we're all very aware of the brand, they're really now ramping things up in the UK. So on a real mission to build their community here as well. So hopefully we can all be a part of that and help them out where we can, and continue this conversation. So what we wanted today to be was to really just have a very open and honest conversation about where we all are with our communities, why we're doing it, the challenges around that. And again, the guys at Reddit can give us some feedback and some advice on that as well as we go. But just a very open conversation around that. So just looking at the list of people that are on the call, I don't think people are going to be too shy at jumping in, which is always good. So what I'll do now is I'll hand over to Nicola and Maria to share a bit more about what they're doing, and then we'll kick off the conversation. So over to you guys.
Thank you, James. And hello, everybody. It's so great to see such a packed room. I'm always a bit worried about like in-person versus online Zooms. I would have loved to have done an in-person breakfast with you all, but this is definitely second best thing, I would say. So I'm actually working down from Kent, but usually we are in London. So we have about, I think over 50 of us now in our Holborn office, and I joined about 6 months ago from Facebook, where I worked there for about 8 years doing a stint at Uber in between. And I wanted to just make sure that I kind of gave us a nice little kickoff to set the scene, and then my colleagues Nicola and Mary will obviously kind of take us forward to the rest of the conversation. As James so rightly said, Reddit is on a bit of a mission ourselves. We're backed by a very kind of big American brand, well known in that space, but pushing out internationally has always been something of a struggle for a lot of tech brands. I've worked on quite a few now, and I always kind of come in at this point where they need to really expand internationally and understand the community that they're trying to speak with internationally. So Reddit is no different, but I'd say the only slight nuance with Reddit, which I find quite interesting, is Reddit actually is a really old platform. So most of the new tech platforms that you would see, a TikTok, a Snap, they really kind of came out the market and they came quite quickly. Whereas Reddit, it feels more like the market has actually come to them. It's always been a place for communities, and it's always been true to that. You know, we don't need to know everything about you, but we want to know what you're interested in and what you're interested in, how you talk about it. So it's kind of felt like as the world has maybe got a bit smaller, it felt like a very big open space pre-pandemic, but over the course of the pandemic, 2020 definitely was absolutely a catalyst for kind of making those online communities just a bit more intimate. Whereas I feel like when I was first coming into the internet, it was, oh wow, every chat room, every space, I would talk to anybody and everybody that my dial-up could handle, and that my mum would let me stay on for as long as I could. But it feels like now, obviously with the advancements of mobile as well, that community is in your back pocket, right? And that community is specifically tailored to what you want to talk about, what you want to see, who you want to interact with, versus being open and big, and talking about it all. And I think, to be honest, the reason that these communities are thriving, even post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, it wasn't a new trend. But the reason they're thriving is because they're just the most authentic and passionate and interesting conversations you can be having. Clementine on the Hypno app. I mean, I know that when I had my two children, it was a massive journey for myself, and I think anxiety, sleepless nights, all of that kind of stuff. I didn't look to anybody I knew in person. I turned to apps, I turned to conversations and forums and anybody basically who would answer my questions at 2 a.m. in the morning while my kid wouldn't sleep. But I really did seek solace in that online community, and especially having a lockdown baby, even more so. I needed that space to reach out and get that kind of tailored advice and get it, quickly, and not have to kind of search through pages and pages and pages of information. And so to know that I can talk to a trusted community is something that really does propel Reddit's mission as well. We have, it is a private platform in terms of, you're not putting everything about yourself on there. It is private by design. However, it's by being private, it's actually super open. And it means that you can have debates. It means that you can have these conversations that you might not stumble upon, say, in a very closed group in another social platform, which only has, your bubble, your people that you know in it. And obviously we saw this earlier with, earlier last year with Wall Street Bets. Everybody kind of really saw that as a demonstration of the power of that online community kind of driving real world change, and the impact and influence and even education that that can have. And it was quite weird because when I came to Reddit 6 months ago, obviously I'd been at Facebook and Instagram for a long time. So, I'd seen communities and groups, but to come to Reddit, it was really interesting for me because, I was like, oh yeah, Wall Street Bets. And everybody internally was like, yeah, but I mean, we have 100,000 of those communities. Wall Street Bets is just the one that people paid attention to, but there were so many. And I think some of my favorite ones were where you would see actually around the coronavirus, we have some really good groups of people saying where you could get tested, who has available kits, supporting and sending, lovely things to NHS staffs like masks and PPE and brownies and things like that, that really were just a great kind of sense of community online in a moment where, we all kind of really needed to pull together. But we have about 100,000 plus of those communities, and they all really do focus, if you haven't been there, they all do really focus on interests and passions. So I have a bit of a mission at the moment to bake as much as possible. It's getting better. To bake as much as possible and to garden as much as possible. I inherited a lot of raised garden beds in my house I don't know how to look after. So I would go to the Reddit community and ask them, what is this? Is this a weed or is this a seed? Do I kill this? Do I pull this up, or do I water it and flower it? And actually it was really great because I was shielding, so I actually couldn't go anywhere apart from my garden. So the Reddit community really helped me kind of decide what I was going to kill and what I was going to try and help live. Not much lived, by the way, TLDR. But also just kind of gave me a new pastime that I'd never really thought about. So the passionate communities, but if I start talking about anything else apart from gardening in that group, I will be kicked out so quickly. The mods are a real special kind of group of people that we have at Reddit. They're all volunteers and they run the communities. They are the admins of the communities, as you will, but they really are the ones that nurture, guide, and make sure that those communities are kind of adhering to the rules and kind of staying to the passion that they've kind of set out. And I think one time I started going on a bit of a rant about what I was going to start cooking, and it was like, nope, this is gardening talk. Okay. So it's quite cool to see that self-moderation, especially in a world of privacy, and those kind of like identities online is something I think is becoming more and more prevalent to not only users but brands as well. So I wanted to just kind of set the scene a little bit. I am going to hand us over to Nicola. Nicola has recently joined us, I say recently joined us, about 4 months ago now. He's a veteran in the UK office. He joined us from Pinterest, and he's actually been in charge of leading our rollout specifically for SMBs. It's something I think when I've worked on other platforms, Pinterest definitely, Nicola can speak to, Twitter, Mary can speak to, we were always a bit late to work with the smaller guys. and the guys who were early on in their journey, it kind of came as like a part two for Facebook and Instagram when I was there, and it actually made up over 60% of our business in the end. So it was something that we were late to the party on, and also it's kind of late for them to really take the advantages of a new platform. By the time that the SMEs were being catered for, it was actually quite a crowded space. And to get the same reach and efficiencies they once had, I think they only had a small time in the spotlight, which was unfortunate. So when we've been launching Reddit here in the UK, growing our own community and pushing out to different regions, we recently launched Sydney, Germany. We have a team over in Portugal. I think it was one of the things that was really front of mind for us was we want to make sure we ourselves are a growing kind of small business compared to our tech counterparts. We want to make sure that we actually are bringing those businesses that are just like us on that journey, learning from them and them learning from us at the same time. So I've been super happy that we've been able to do this. It's been pushed a couple of times, but I'm really glad we got it on the calendar. I'm going to hand over to Nico so he can give us a little bit more kind of insight into what our plans are, what we would love to help this community with, and also have you guys, if you're up for it, help us on our journey as well. So thank you so much. Nico, I'm going to drink my coffee and let you take it from here.
Thank you, Maria. So first of all, super excited to be here today, finally, because I know this has been for so long in the making. And I mean, the more James and Georgia were sharing with us the stories about all your incredible brands, the more I couldn't wait. I was like, I want to know more about all these brands, these businesses, and all these incredible ideas that are behind those businesses. And I also wanted to thank you all, first of all, for being here today, but also for bearing with us, because I know that this was supposed to happen in December, but then, I mean, out of our control, we had to postpone it. So I appreciate to see such a high turnout, even if we had like to postpone the event. And I also want to thank like the founding network team, because they've been helping us like moving everything, moving this from an in-person event to a virtual event and making it still like feeling super special. So I want to thank you them as well. So as Maria said, a little bit of like history of the UK office and the UK presence of Reddit. We started 1 year ago with the UK office, focusing mostly on big and established brands. And then 4 months ago, I joined from Pinterest with the goal of like start thinking about how we can help, apart from like the big brands, how we can help smaller realities, high growth startups type of businesses to grow on our platform. I actually moved also from Dublin, even if you can tell I'm not Irish, but I moved from Dublin to London. So I did a lot of like London related Reddit communities search to kind of like find ideas about, you know, what do you do when you're in London and things to do in London. So that was kind of like my Reddit experience, London related. But one of the reasons, apart from like the idea of like building a team and a strategy to help businesses, like smaller businesses and startups and high growth businesses, the other reason why I joined Reddit, it's because at the end of the day, I like joining platforms and working for platforms where people come with a purpose and with a goal in mind. And people don't come, to Maria's point, people don't come to Reddit because, you know, they're waiting for the bus, they don't know what to do, they just want to see, you know, what their friends are up to. They actually come to Reddit because they join one or more of our 100,000 communities, and they want to discuss, learn, get advice, find out more about what they are passionate about and what are their interests. And I think that that's really inspiring. And it's also a way people are actually creating real connections. So, and if you, I mean, listening to Maria's example about her talking about food in a garden community, you can say that's really a real type of connection, because we have moderators saying, hey, this is not for garden, this is not for food, this is for gardening. So just, you know, go somewhere else talking about this. And when I think about like communities, I think that that's going to be an underlying theme of this conversation, because at the end of the day, I mean, something that all of you have in common, all your businesses, all your brands, all of you as individuals, you are high growth businesses, you are purpose driven. I mean, James shared with us some of your stories. All of you are there with a purpose in mind, with a bigger goal that you want to achieve apart from running your business. But also you are at a deep sense of community. And you represent so many verticals and so many different realities from food. And I got super excited about reading the stories about tempeh, finding out that what is tempeh and what better nature does with it. And I cannot wait to actually taste tempeh now that I know about it. And I hope like my pronunciation of tempeh is right. Super excited about having working with businesses like Perky Blenders. And thanks again for the special coffee that you sent us. But also from food to dating with Succinct, a personality-based app, parenting with Young Planet. And I could go on and on and on. I mean, we have people here working in the health and fitness and financial health and in the mobility sectors, which is great. And we also have some familiar faces. We have Donna from Terra Virtua. Terra Virtua has been working with us in the past year with Mary, and we're going to hear more about her experience and Terra Virtua experience on Reddit. We also have Rachel from Afrosensics. We met with her back in November. And by the way, Rachel, I saw that your kids got fever, so I'm really sorry to hear that. I hope they get well. They get well soon. And it was super interesting to receive from all of you your insights about what community means to you. And there were like so many great like ideas about communities, from communities having customers interacting among themselves, communities about how do we moderate a community and how do we create a community that manages itself, communities like creating meaningful connections, communities getting insights from your customers to actually get to create and ideate products, and also communities a way you can actually build your brand. And what like kept coming into my mind while I was reading all the answers, and by the way, thanks for sharing those because they were super valuable for us. I was thinking all of this is already happening in one place. And that place is Reddit, because people are already on Reddit, part of communities, doing all these things and being moderated by themselves, because that's also part of the nature of Reddit as a platform. And so why we are here? We are here today, apart because we all wanted some free breakfast delivered to our doors. We are here because at the end of the day, we and I need your help to get this right. Because we have been doing this multiple times in the past, but we want to get this right, and we need your help to understand what we can do differently, more of, less of, to help you and brands like you to build, to basically thrive on our platform. And something that I wanted to highlight, and then I promise I'll leave the word to I'll hand over to James. Because I'm looking forward to hearing more from your stories. But something that I wanted was super that came across is this is not like a one-off roundtable, but this is a start of a journey, because we are actually working on a couple of really cool things that I'm super excited about that are gonna basically make this group of people a kind of like a council and a sounding board for us to understand how we can help businesses like you to be successful on Reddit. And so the first kind of like follow-up, it's going to be pretty material. You're going to receive a Reddit thank you box at your place in the next couple of days. But apart from that, there are actually two projects we're working on. The first one is, as part of the follow-up to this roundtable, we're actually going to put you in contact. We're going to actually collect contacts from you, and we're going to put you in contact with the team that I'm leading, who's taking care of like high growth and startups businesses. Because the idea there is like really putting all of you in contact with experts that can help you getting started on Reddit. And as part of that, we're gonna also give you some ad credits. So the first campaign that you're gonna run on Reddit, it's gonna be on us, and you can see what's working, what's not working, and how does that feel. And I would love for this to be like a two-way conversation. Like once you go through that journey with our team, let us know what's working, what's not working from an experience perspective, from a platform perspective, because that's where the value is for us, learning what we can do better and what we can change. And then the other thing that we're working on is actually something called the Reddit Growth Council. So we're actually partnering with our UK general manager team to actually build a pilot. And this group is going to be part of that pilot on how we can help brands to build communities on Reddit organically. So how we can create basically toolkits and processes for you to actually build communities helped by experts from our team. So we're still fleshing it out completely, but I mean, be on the lookout for like further communications around that. And rest assured that you're going to be part of this pilot and you're going to help us like making it work, and again, giving us a lot of feedback. So I'll hand it over to James, but before handing it over, I just want to say I look forward to meeting you in person soon. James mentioned that there might be drinks coming up in the future. Looking forward to that. And also we're going to organize more events together with the Founding Network, and hopefully we're going to be able to meet in person at some point. And I'm really looking forward to that. I thank you all again for being here today. So excited to listening to the rest of the conversation. And James, handing it over to you. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that. I think there's a few things in there that I think are a relief for people to hear, and that a lot of the communities are self-moderating and things. I think that takes a weight off people's shoulders, and something I know we want to dive into today. So as I say, I thought this was a great platform for us to just have a very open conversation around why communities are so important to our various businesses, any challenges. I'd love for people to jump in with any bits of advice and so on. So just to kick that off, I think it makes sense. Let's jump over to Donna, who's with Terra Virtua, who I know community is so important to you guys, but obviously in quite a niche space. So it'd be great to hear a bit more about what you're doing, what you found worked, what hasn't, and a bit more from you, Donna, if you don't mind.
Oh, thank you. I think probably best introduce Terra Virtua 20 seconds. So it's a NFT cryptocurrency company. We're based on blockchain platform, slightly new compared to a lot of traditional business. And as nature, so NFT crypto community is very important to us. And obviously Reddit coming into the picture. If you search subreddit, I think cryptocurrency subgroup, we have over 1.4 million followers. And when you're looking at NFT subreddit group, those are self-formed group. And that's the good thing with Reddit, because people are hugely engaging. Altogether about 700,000 across NFT marketplaces and NFT platforms, etc. So I think start from last year, September, I launched 3 major campaigns, all covered Reddit, massive spend and advertising, targeted advertising and AMAs, etc. And talking about community, so in the crypto world, NFT world, community is very much across Discord, Telegram. We have our own official social account. You will see Terra Virtua Twitter account, but we also have Terra Virtua community account, which is slightly interesting thing. So we tap into a community, creating a lot of engaging content. We can talk to user, we can engage user in a whole new different way, where a lot of official social network, some content we will not be able to post because we also have a brand building purpose per se. I have quite large community teams. I don't know the number, to be honest. I have a head of community, and below head of community, I have 5 community managers, and below them we have moderators, ambassadors. So I think altogether we probably have 30 people in my community working on the Terra Virtua brand, penetrating the entire network, getting to all sorts of places as an official Terra Virtua social account we can't get in, because those community managers, they are the community managers as well as they are fan themselves. So they wear 2 hats. As a fan, they can penetrate to all the Reddit subgroup saying, hey guys, we launched, I've seen this before, I'm a fan, have you seen this, exchange information, etc. So instead of official account, you just constantly posting all this, the designer, corporate look, creatives, collaterals, visuals. A lot of time people thinking this is very advertising driven, this is very commercial. They're not engaging with you at all. So engagement is hugely important to us. And I think that's a couple of minutes for me. And later I'll probably share some of our paid activity with Reddit, some learnings.
Perfect. Yeah, that'd be really helpful. And I guess just to put it to the group and take it from a higher level, just looking at some of your thoughts on community. JC, you had a really interesting point of view on on community and just how important it is based on, I think you mentioned that you see the product as effectively the cost of entry to the community. I'd love to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm glad you like my my musings. I was writing that on the train to you yesterday, but yeah, look, I mean, you know, part of my philosophy, guys, I'm CMO of a company called Recast, and we basically are pulling together people around sport, and we've got content on there. It's all based around microtransactions, and so community and fans for us is, and trying to understand how we build those tribes and engage those tribes is extremely important, and it's not easy to do. I mean, thanks guys for bringing everyone together on this call, and just listening to the Reddit team there. It is, you know, you need to be fully engaged, and you need to truly understand that you play a part. I've got a theory on citizenship versus community. Like, anyone can be part of a community, but in order to be a good citizen, there are certain criteria that you need to abide by to be part of that community. And the lady, I can't remember your name, sorry, you were talking about, yeah, as soon as you started talking about cooking when it was gardening, you were ousted, even though,
oh yeah, big time.
I assume, even though I assume potatoes that you can create in the garden, you could eat as well. So even the adjacent.
I did go pretty off piece, but yes, it was trying to make stuff from the garden, but yeah. Yeah.
So it was good. I like it. But the piece that I wrote to Will was just around. I've got this philosophy that, you know, certainly back to the 80s and the 90s, and even the early 2000s, we as for a consumption model was really around, what do I need to buy, and then do I think about the product after I bought it? And today, and I see it across the board, that most, certainly Gen Y, certainly Gen Z and Gen Y, are making decisions and thinking about the transaction before they transact. And what that means is that the entry cost into a community is the transaction. But once you're into that community, it's the ticket cost to get in. And every brand that I see today is thinking about how they build that community. And I'll give you another example, because I'm just joining the board of a company called Dirty, DIRTEA. It's mushroom tea. If you guys want to go and look at it, dirtyworld.com. It's an amazing brand run by two brothers. But, you know, the mushroom tea is simply the entry point into this way of thinking about how, I don't know whether you guys have seen the documentary on Netflix, but how mushrooms can really affect our health. And by the way, it's not psychoactive. There's no psilocybin in the mushrooms you buy. So the tea is just literally the ticket cost into the community. And once you're in, these guys are building an amazing community around festivals, content. They do breathwork workshops, etc. And I think as brands today, this will be my last point, as brands today are building, if you're not thinking about how you build and craft and engender that community post and pre-transaction, I just don't think that there is a sustainable survival strategy for brands today. Now, in saying that, if you're just buying a mobile phone stand like I'm talking to you on, I don't think there needs to be a community around that. That is a very functional purchase. But for the brand, everyone on this call, I'm assuming, especially the lady who was talking about her amazing wellness app, if you don't have that, then you're not going to be successful.
Absolutely. So the challenge in that, though, is keeping it interactive and keeping that community engaged on an ongoing basis. And I think we've all seen it, haven't we, throughout the pandemic, that actually people's state of mind changes throughout time. So, Joe, for instance, at Baked In, I assume you've had a massive jump up throughout the pandemic. I guess it's on your mind now. How do we keep that up? Now people are getting back out into the real world. And how do you see yourself and the team managing that?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we acquired masses of customers during lockdowns. They've stayed. The challenge for us is that acquisition cost was so low during the lockdowns. We managed to acquire people really, really cheap. I was terrified that they would all leave, and I think it was April last year when everything unlocked properly. Our acquisition costs just skyrocketed almost overnight. everyone went out and stopped looking at screens, but people do, they're still baking. It's not like they've stopped baking and they've stopped having that as their hobby since. It's just been a lot harder to get new people to come in, and our community grew just like 5 times during the pandemic. Our Facebook community grew, and that's a closed group. But for us, it's slightly different. It's part of the value proposition of being a member of the subscription, is that you get access to the community as well. So whilst I lose a bit of marketing benefit of being able to get, use that to get tons of engagement on public posts, it's a reason why people stay, and it helps our retention rates, because even if they're maybe got too many boxes, they don't want to leave the community, so they need to stay a member. So yeah, it's a tricky one for us, and going forwards is that community is now so valuable to us. I think it's one of the reasons why we didn't hemorrhage customers once everyone went back out and started enjoying life to some extent, and not be cooped up in their kitchens and their lounges. So the community is definitely, I believe, really passionately believe that it's helped us to retain more than we would have done if we didn't have it.
Yeah, you mentioned the acquisition of people into that community sort of has changed over time. Have you found the engagement has changed over time with various lockdowns? And
no, it's still people. I don't think people. Maybe the last 2 years just reinforced how important being part of some kind of community is to us, and exactly as just saying about citizenship and I think the friendships that people have built in that community, I think has meant the engagement stayed really high. It's just been harder to acquire people because it's just, the people joining the community is directly related to our cost of acquisition of getting people into the subscription box.
Absolutely. And Nicola and Maria, is that something you've seen through different communities that it comes and goes with what's happening in the real world, or is it more in this case where it stays fairly constant?
Absolutely. I think, we have some communities that are kind of our bread and butter and are constantly there. Like, our biggest one is like our Ask Reddit. And so R is / means the subreddit, and Ask Reddit is the title of that. And that's literally where there'll be questions on everything and anything, or r/shower thoughts, which is one of my favorite ones, like random things that people think about in the shower. So there were those kind of like ones that are just constantly always bubbling away, and they're really fun. We definitely do see, and I'll use Baked In as an example just because it's one of the products I'm kind of most closely aligned to, I would say. But things like Bake Off, the Bake Off community on Reddit is pretty strong. Pretty intense. There's a lot around Bake Off. So obviously when we see Bake Off on TV, or when Bake Off like subscription, boom, you see more chatter in the Bake Off group when those kind of events are happening. Sport very much so as well. In the seasons, we see that move in and out. So there is kind of there's that layer of groups that kind of move with what's ever happening with the times, and you see more kind of ebbing and flows. But then we do have a kind of core staple groups that are the larger ones, in the millions, which are kind of more, I'd say they're more endemic to the platform because it's the tone, the kind of underlying spirit of openness. So excuse my French, but there is also a really great group called Am I the Arsehole? And in that group, it's literally where people like tell something that's happened, and they get the community like, am I the bad guy here? Am I the villain? And people are like, no, you're not the villain. Your mother-in-law is out to get you. Absolutely. Or they are like, yeah, you are. You really should apologize for that. And, so that's kind of more endemic fit to Reddit tone, the kind of honesty, transparency. That's always there. And the other thing I would say, the difference between, I find the closed groups, whether it be Facebook or, any other Discord or any other kind of platform that you have, they're not indexable or searchable. So people have to be invited usually. It's hard, the discovery of those communities, unless you're part of a kind of group and you get an invite. Whereas with Reddit, everything is completely indexable. So most people, our biggest entry point is actually Google search, where people will ask Google a question, and then like, my robot hoover broke. And that is a big piece of this household. So I needed to get that fixed. So I went on to Amazon to be like, my robot hoover's broke, and like nobody was helping me there. So I went on to Google and said, how do I fix my robot hoover? And I landed in the robot hoover community, in Reddit, where there were people talking about their robot hoovers. And I'm there like screwdriver and hammer trying to fix Meryl Sweep. You can have that one for free. trying to fix Meryl so that I can, and I did. Now I'm still in that robot Hoover group because it's just I'm a bit of a geek, and it's kind of like Robot Wars as well. But I'm in that group. I stumbled upon it. So they're kind of net new geeks like myself, or just those net new people that you wouldn't find naturally for your own channels. I think that's also the kind of the difference that we see in terms of the discoverability of the groups versus it kind of being brand led or activity led. It's a bit of both. There's kind of more of that organic growth, I would say, because of that.
Makes sense. I've got to find this Am I the Arsehole group. I bet there's absolutely
there are some gems, I'm not gonna lie, there are definitely some gems in there.
I can imagine. And it seems like one of the funny things I was thinking is it seems the majority of people on this call have the same challenges of keeping and engaging their audience. But there's certain people like Jess, you spring to mind with this, that actually your aim must be to eventually get people out of the community, being a dating app, right? So I guess your challenge is keeping them engaged as long as possible until you get them out, and then keeping them as advocates. Is that what you're working on?
Yeah, it's quite a unique situation, I think. So we really focus on getting people onto the app. And then we do a lot of social posts. So we have a very engaged community on Instagram. It's quite a small community, but I think it's like 30 times more engaged than Tinder's. And I think we're quite lucky because we have two topics that people love to talk about combined. So people love to talk about dating, love, romantic relationships. People also love to talk about themselves, personality types. So yeah, I think I guess the social communities have just grown naturally, but we do obviously put a lot of conscious effort into them. And I guess the social communities, I guess there are kind of two directions. So when people leave the app, they often join the social communities, but then also people find the social communities and then join the app. And we've seen a lot of organic growth because of that. So yeah, we do, I guess, a lot of SEO, TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, and now we reach something like 4 million people organically every month. And that's not necessarily people clicking, but that's like people seeing our brand on all these different channels. But I guess maybe this isn't like community in the way we're talking about it now, but we do have kind of like mini communities where, I don't know, our success stories become friends and chat to each other on Instagram, and you can see them following each other. And when I say success stories, I mean people who found a relationship through our app. And that's really nice to see. And because it's just a natural point of conversation, lots of our success stories do talk about it, I guess, with their friends and then form mini sub-communities. But we had a really great experience with Reddit actually in the early days. So that was before we had a marketing budget. And we're like, how do we get the name out there? And we knew that our community overlapped well with the Reddit community. And I just posted on all the different kind of personality type forums. We just created this app. I was actually quite nervous because I know that, you can't be too self-promotional on Reddit, right? So I was like, this is either going to go really well or really badly. Probably won't be an in-between, but yeah, it was taken really well. And I think, if you're talking about something or offering something that people on those subreddits really, really want and it's useful to them, I think it's, it's totally fine to just say it really. I guess a question that I had about the Reddit communities in particular is how do you find the moderators, and what happens when, say the moderators leave, how are they replaced?
Yeah, it's so we don't actually find the moderators. The moderators kind of make the community, and that's how we find them, right? So they make a community and then we're like, oh, okay, this is a new moderator, and then they're kind of taken on a bit of like an onboarding journey. When we do, the only difference to that I would say is we have mods who moderate more than one community, moderate our larger communities, and they are kind of a separate group that actually input into our product. So we have regular contact with them. We actually had for our all kind of end of year bash, I say bash, end of year Zoom, where we had one of our moderators who runs like a fan page for a kind of famous rapper. Actually, we asked if they would like to interview said famous rapper who was performing at our holiday party. So we tried to kind of bring it, and obviously they were like, oh my God, yeah. Like, so we actually, it was great because then they could just ask the community, what do you want to ask him? Like, I'm literally going to be talking to him. And they did a live in the group and it was really great. So sometimes we have these beautiful moments where we're able to kind of pull them in that way. But in terms of like those super mods also kind of inform our product. So we'll go to them first to be like, what do you think about this? We're thinking of doing this. And they will either, you know, be like, this is amazing, yes, this is what we'd like, or they're like, no, that's terrible, what the hell are you doing? And especially as we started advertising on the platform, it was so important that we had the mods as part of that group to tell us like, we will like this, we will hate this, because we have to protect the platform. We have to monetize so we can build better features, expand internationally, all of that kind of stuff, but we also didn't want to make sure that we just, you know, kind of bombarded the platform and like you said, come over overly promotional and then kind of ruin the community. Now, when we open up new markets, so right now we actually have a pilot in the UK and one in Germany, where we approach groups of people who aren't on Reddit, but we know that they would be a good fit. So we have a big thing with universities at the moment here in the UK. We know that a lot of kind of student groups mobilize on social platforms. They also, you know, like run their sports teams on there. There's a lot of kind of synergies between. So we do, when we're trying to like launch a new market, we will go to, because we want to make it local, we want to make it relevant. So we will approach them and then pair them up with a moderator, like one of these super mods, to say, hey, do you want to have your hockey team or, you know, the UCL sports faculty on Reddit? Cool. And then we pair them with another moderator, and that moderator helps them then make a group. So when we're launching new markets, that's usually where we'll do it. But most of the time it is kind of following what we already have, like what naturally bubbles up, and then just kind of supporting them and putting them in touch with the wider mod community. We also have like a mod, it's like a festival. Mary, I think I've never actually seen one in person because I haven't been here long enough. Mary's been here longer than I, but it's like every year we get all the mods together with the CEO, is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we have like a big kind of festival with them.
I can also just add, Jessica, if you're thinking about like building your own brand's community on the platform, I worked with a brand 2 years ago called Woodchuck Ciders, which is a regional cider company in the US who had like no marketing budget. And it was right when hard seltzers were going really big into the market. So they went out with like very authentic ads on Reddit, where it's like, this is our first ad. This is our second ad. We made it pink because we want to target women. So like very tongue in cheek. And it sort of just took off where like the community gathered around this like grassroots brand. So they started a community and Redditors started reaching out to them saying like, we want to help moderate your community. So like if you are compelling on Reddit, like Redditors will come to you guys wanting to help.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know. And I was also wondering, do you have any, I guess, like auto moderation tools? Like say there's a comment that's been reported, you know, 5 times within 30 minutes. Does that automatically get hidden?
We have, there is so much, many tools. Like there are things where you can, you know, ban certain keywords, like proactively that you can put keywords in that if people use those keywords, it doesn't get posted, you can't see it. You can turn off comments as well if you're like, we need to put this out. We don't necessarily want everybody to kind of pull in and tell us what they're thinking, but we do have to tell everyone this is happening, you know, and I know that's super, super important sometimes because you can't deal with moderating what's going to come back out of it, but you still need to let people know, right? It's kind of like the way of turning the reply all off on an email, which I wish I could do most of the times. But so there are things that we do to try and make the moderator's life as easy as possible, rather than like, hey, it's opening up to millions of people, good luck. So there is a lot of that baked into the dashboard, the actual moderator's dashboard on Reddit, so that they can put some rules and stuff in. And you'll know this, right, from if you're running search or your Google Analytics, you can pull the search query report, all the stuff that you're already not wanting to be a part of, and you can pop that in. You can also ban more users. You can, all that kind of stuff. So it's something super, super important to us because, like I said, they're voluntary. We don't pay them, so we have to make the experience, you know, as great as we can. They're our like #1 customer, I would say.
I tell you what springs to mind when you're talking about the moderator side of things, Maria, is, and when you're talking about joining up a couple of moderators, have you seen it with small businesses where a couple of small businesses come together and and start a community?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, we have seen there's been topics where they kind of all rally around. The thing I would say, and just to kind of paint the scene, once you have if you have a look on the platform, or if you're familiar with the platform, brands don't actually have a place on Reddit. They don't have like a brand page with a blue tick, and it's not like you have a Facebook page, you own that URL, or I mean, you can claim it obviously, but there isn't it's, you have to let them know you're a brand, because it's a private by design platform. You can be anybody you want to be. They have different avatars to represent who they are. So it's not like you're like, hi, I'm the PR person from X brand. So you have to kind of be very honest, like who you are. If you're a brand, you have to kind of come about it in a way. And we do see brands that have communities that work really. I mean, Gymshark has a big community that they do not run. The Gymshark customers run themselves. And you have seen where there have been collabs when there's been a sporting moment, for example, and then Gymshark and another kind of brand would come together to kind of talk about what's happening. It also happens on like AMAs, so AMAs, Ask Me Anythings, where you'll have different people from different kind of industries, verticals, brands, whatever, talking about a specific topic. That comes together quite well, and especially if there is talent that unites them as well. So if you have talent, some brands have talent from one or another, or if they use the same influencer crowd, or if they have the kind of same event marketing strategy, that's where you'll normally see it on like Reddit Talk or the Ask Me Anythings, where you see those kind of come together, not necessarily making a community, but maybe like a joint message or a joint campaign.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. This session is absolutely flying by. There's a couple more points I wanted to jump onto though. So Victoria, I know you mentioned with your business, Perky Blenders, that you've got such an engaged local community, and your challenge now is actually creating that national community. Would you like to just tell us a bit more about that and the challenge?
Yeah, sure. So just winding back to when we started, the area that Adam, my husband, and I moved to 12 years ago, Waltham Forest. Some of you may know it. He joked, he's like, why am I going to live here? There's no pub I want to go in. But we could see the change, and the change has happened hugely in 10 years. Part of that gave us the idea to start a business. At the beginning, we weren't really sure what it was. It evolved into coffee, and roasting coffee and selling coffee, and then having premises. What's absolutely incredible about our community is that the people of Waltham Forest absolutely buy into something that was grown on their home turf. So they're right behind you all the time. If they love it, something like coffee, people can really tap into. It's part of a lot of people's day. And I can quite honestly say that they've grown us to where we are today. And part of that is having a physical premises. So when we opened up in the Leytonstone station, we became part of people's day. We are their community. They are part of us, grabbing their coffee in the morning, commuting, starting the day off well with a smile from the barista and a coffee to go. And then we also had we always wanted an online business with the subscription. We didn't have a marketing budget. It was just three of us around a kitchen table. We just reached out to our immediate audience, which was our local community, and at things like local fairs and things like that, handed out flyers. And I was so bowled over just how quickly that built. A coffee subscription at the time was not, subscription businesses weren't as strong as they are now, but people bought in. I was like seeing all these little orders come in. I was like, wow, this is good. But it was all local. We look at the postcodes of where we're posting to, we were like cycling it around to people's houses. The interesting thing about if you grow a community, particularly in such a transient place like London, is that those people quite typically aren't from the area, so they come from another area. So they invest in what they love, and then they want to spread that love. So someone would buy coffee for themselves, and then they'd start gifting it to their parents who lived up in Leeds. They loved it. They started gifting it, and that's how it's grown. Our core community around us has grown us to post coffee to every corner of the UK, which is, I find, phenomenal and amazing. And when I look through the orders now, I'm like, wow, we post there. It blows my mind. But how my sort of question really is, how do we sort of keep hold of that really engaged community, but make sure that we're not inside our little bubble of Waltham Forest, and making sure that we're presenting ourselves, that our values are, you know, we're coffee for everyone. You don't need to be a coffee connoisseur to drink amazing coffee. You know, we want to open up the, you know, to everybody to be drinking better coffee. And I hope that you've got your coffee there, you'll get a taste of that. But yeah, growing our community outside of, you know, our little bubble, which we can sometimes be in. And I think that, well, it's just been fascinating to hear everybody speak today, because obviously I was aware of Reddit, but I can really see a potential here with the coffee community, and I can really see where we could take that. And I don't like the word much, but there's those people who are really snobby about their coffee. And then there's people who are like, well, you know, I just want really good coffee. I don't really mind where it's grown, or, you know, what altitude, but, you know, we've identified like quite a different customer sector. So there's different communities within the coffee community. There's people who are just like really nice product. And then there's people who are like really interested in, you know, what farms it come from, where's it grown, how we've roasted it, how we've chosen to blend it, you know, all those things. And I think there's so much that we can do with that in the coffee community. And I don't think that that's really been tapped into with Reddit. So I would be incredibly interested in growing that community.
And does anyone else in the group have any advice on that? Whether they've had whether it be a local community that they've then expanded nationally, or perhaps they've had a strong UK community that they've managed to expand internationally. Has anyone got any advice on that?
I'd say Young Planet's got quite a bit of experience in that. We started in Hackney, went out to 4 boroughs, 7 boroughs, North London, and subsequently nationally last year. And the thing that catches us out, once you've got the insight in how to communicate at a sort of macro level down to the individual cells that you're trying to target, you know, your mini atomic groups, if you like, is the thing that's caught us out every time, actually, is we expect it to go quicker than it does. And sometimes it does just take a bit of time. And I tell myself that every time we roll out, we'll be in Canada this year, for example. I know we'll plan it too quickly. I know we'll have a desperation moment in the middle of it, thinking we've got it all wrong. And then whilst we're trying to work out what we do next, it'll slowly trickle through and follow the model. So I'd just say, be careful with the timing expectation.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, Jason. I mean, we're just about to open our 4th premises and our first one outside our own borough. It's still London, but it's North London. They know we're coming because we've had lots of messages. It's been very delayed, but I'm interested in how that community is going to grow just outside our immediate home ground.
Absolutely. Look, this session has gone far too quickly. I know there's tons that I want to dive into with each business. I'm sure you're all the same. So we'll certainly have to do this again, hopefully in person next time as well. But just to finish off, Maria, Nicola, I don't know if you have any first bits of advice for these guys that are either continuing to grow and engage their communities, or perhaps just starting. It'd be great to get some thoughts from you.
Yeah, I mean, I echo just the conversation. I have like page and page of notes. There's just been so much goodness coming out of here. I think also like one of the things that really, it was JC, I think, who said it about the citizenship versus community. I think that's definitely something that resonated with me. And also just the kind of backing of brands as well, like backing your look. So I'm in Kent, and yeah, I have like Kent wine, I have Kent coffee, I have Kent, like, you name it, I've got it. Especially during 2020, right, when I was absolutely not stepping foot in Tesco's or something like that. I wanted to go and get my stuff and also have it delivered to me as well. So I think just we have at Reddit, like one of the things is one of our kind of mission statements is global, which is, yes, we're a global company, but how do we think locally? And us as a kind of, you know, 2,000 person employee company, which is quite small for a tech company when you kind of compare it to competitors, it is actually something we're still struggling with in terms of like, how do we lean into those local communities where the fit is right? We don't want to walk in somewhere where we should be here. this is our audience, this isn't how we're still trying to test the waters and see where do we add value and where do we add fun. as well, because that's kind of where our brand really sits. I would say the first thing I would do is kind of get on the platform and just start looking like for stuff that you think would resonate with your brand. So if it's coffee, as an example from Victoria, if it's coffee, we do have r/coffee. Getting on there, one of the funny things you were talking about, coffee snobs, I know that they have on their rules on the right hand side is like no elitist kind of coffee. Like, we will not have it on this forum. If you're an elitist coffee snob, go somewhere else, right?
That sounds good.
Which is great. Which is for me, because if it's got caffeine in it, I'll have it. Basically, so I'm like, these are my people. This is where I need to be. But actually, like, have a look and feel for one, the communities that you kind of feel drawn to as a person and why. And then kind of try to think about, why do I want to be in this community? Why do I think this is a good community? And try and take those kind of same values, because it's no different, right? You are also somebody else's customer. You're also somebody else's, person that they would want in their community. So start to think, what is it about this? And can I bring that to my brand? You might be able to, you might not be able to. But I think it's also trying to not be too many things to too many different people. And that's why I really love kind of businesses early on. They usually focus, quite the focus is there, and they have that one or two things that they're doing and they're trying to do really, really well, whether it be baking or food or dating. So I think get on there and see what organically is on the platform. When Nico did mention about we have a team of people ready to help, so they also can do a bit of community kind of guidance to say, these are the kind of communities that I would say are a good fit for you to have a look around. And if you wanted to start doing any kind of targeting to try and increase your presence, these are kind of the places I would be if I was your brand. And we do also have, I don't know how many people here use social listing tools, but if you do, Reddit is usually a very, very big contributor to those social listening platforms, mainly because we're completely indexable. So it's very easy to find like insights from Reddit. So we use like Brandwatch or anything like Hootsuite, anything like that, where you'll actually be able to tick that Reddit box and actually see what's already coming through. And I would probably use your search query reports or your Google Analytics to see what are the terms people are searching for. And then you'll probably find the search terms from Google, but the conversations on Reddit. So you'll be able to then kind of lift and shift what you're already doing and find the deeper connections. And there are a lot of local ones on Reddit as well. Those communities are growing. I would say probably obviously London is the biggest, but we do have like Manchester, we have like Leeds and Birmingham, like the major cities, and we are starting to see the smaller ones come out as well. So that's definitely something you should kind of be looking at if you have a regional focus right now, or there is a specific location in the UK that your brand would resonate in.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much for that. And thank you to the rest of the Reddit team as well for making this possible. So Nicola, Mary, Maria, and all the guys behind the scenes, we really appreciate all your input for this.